This is how radical the far left is getting, okay? Listen to this. So, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, abortion ballot measure too radical for pro-choice, pro-life Ohioans. Yeah, but this is how they do it. They push it that it's one thing, but listen. So critics of the ballot amendment are urgently warning that the measure is about much more than abortion and could be used to decimate parental rights, lead to abortion throughout the pregnancy, and even allow minors to pursue sex change procedures. The radical left is obsessed with, and our healthcare system and education is obsessed with the sex change stuff on children. It's sick. Among the voices sounding the alarm is Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who has gone out of his way to dissuade his constituents from casting a yes vote for the amendment. Whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, this amendment goes much, much too far. DeWine's chief concern about the amendment is its broad language and how it could be used to overhaul abortion laws and parental consent laws in the state, far past what pro-abortion groups pushing the measure are stating. Also says the state cannot directly or indirectly interfere with an abortion. So that's very, very broad language. I think the net result is going to be a very permissive abortion statute that allows abortion right up until the time of birth. It would too, absolutely. That's why they're doing it broad, so they can do that. These people are sick and obsessed with upending just basic ethical standards. DeWine further pointed out to the amendment's exception for the health of the mother, which is an extremely broad exception. We know that the United States Supreme Court in previous abortion decisions has defined that extremely broadly. And under the amendment, that determination would be made by the person performing the abortion with no review. So as a practical matter, it's not an exception that really matters. You could have an abortion at any point up until birth. DeWine and Ohio First Lady Fran DeWine are so opposed to the amendment that for the first time ever, they agreed to appear in a political advertisement for an issue warning against the amendment. This is the first statewide ad that my wife Fran and I have ever done for an issue. He said, "We just feel very strongly about this proposed constitutional amendment. It's a radical amendment and goes much, much too far. It would put Ohio in the category of some of the most liberal states." DeWine emphasized that if the measure passes, it would approve by vote over years. I'm not aware of any that have ever been actually overturned because it's be an amendment. You would have to have a vote of the people, and so it's just very unlikely that would occur. We would be stuck with this constitutional amendment forever. Issue 1 would override this several statutes that we have. A number of years ago, we outlawed partial birth abortion. It's the most sick thing ever. It's basically the baby is born partly alive and then they kill it. It's how sick these people are. A number of years ago, we outlawed partial birth abortion. Martin Haskell, a doctor in Ohio, came up with this technique and was using it in Ohio, where the baby is partially delivered and then killed. And then the rest of the baby is delivered. This was done in Ohio until I lost my place, sorry. We overrode the law outlawing it. For a number of years, we had a law in the books that requires parents to consent before a minor is able to have an abortion. It would also override our parental consent law. Unbelievable, these people. Left-wing fact checkers have asserted that the amendment would not impact parental rights. Bullshit. Bullshit. You're just saying, because this is how broad it is. It's just saying any person. It's not, just full of shit. Would not impact parental rights, partial birth abortions, or even allow minors to pursue sex change drugs and procedures without parental consent. In a televised debate on the amendment, pro-abortion activist Desariah Timms declined to clarify, of course, declined to clarify the broad language of the measure, instead repeatedly claiming that issue 1 is simply about removing politicians from reproductive decisions and restoring Roe v. Wade. Yeah, you only say that when it's politicians that disagree with you, but it's okay for Governor Pritzker, who actually pushed a bunch of money into Ohio for this. I'll get to it. You're all for him. Like I've said before, like I get the heebie-jeebies. I want to vomit every time I hear Governor Pritzker, most especially, talk about women's reproductive health. But I certainly don't want it going to where these radical, crazy people want it. Yeah, no. But they'll support Governor Pritzker saying stuff like, because it all serves their sick death. Let's kill and change, upend everything because we're out of our mind and really should get some mental health help. Instead, repeatedly claiming that issue 1 is simply about removing politicians from reproductive decisions and restoring Roe v. Wade. They're obsessed with Roe v. Wade. But when local media questioned the ACLU of Ohio about whether the language of the measure would undo the amendment, ignoring or downplaying questioning around the language of the measure, quote, I think they're misleading people when they deny the amendment will undermine parental rights and lead to late-term abortions. We've consulted with constitutional scholars who have looked at the language, and you don't even need to be a constitutional scholar. Just look at the very expansive language. I also think they are certainly misleading people when they say the measure would just put us back to where we were prior to the overturning of Roe v. Wade or limiting abortion. The ballot measure put forward by Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights, a coalition comprised of far-left groups such as URGE, ACLU of Ohio, and Planned Parenthood, yep, all the same people, Advocate of Ohio, would say, 1, they would create legal protections for any person or entity that assists a person with receiving reproductive medical treatment, including but not limited to abortion. 2, prohibit the state from directly or indirectly burdening, penalizing, or prohibiting abortions before an unborn child is determined to be viable unless the state demonstrates that it is using the least restrictive means. 3, grants grants a pregnant person to all health and health care access. 4, always allow an unborn child to be aborted at any stage of pregnancy, regardless of viability, if in the treating physician's determination the abortion is necessary to protect the pregnant woman's life or health. Well, you can see what the doctors are just, operating on money, many of them that are involved in this, that are also involved in sex change surgery, all that stuff. Pro-abortion groups pushing the amendment have dumped significant sums into framing a yes vote as a vote for freedom and have invoked conservative imagery. So I'm going to go on because it's a long article. So DeWine noted that much of the funding supporting the pro-abortion side has come from outside the state. Indeed, campaign filings from Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights shows they have brought in nearly $29 million from donors. The largest donations backing the abortion amendment since September 8th came from out-of-state groups like Arabella Advisors 1630 Fund, a DC-backed dark money group, and then the Open Society, which is George Soros, of course. And then it goes on to say here, the Civil Liberties Union, New York-based. And then the biggest, he said here, was, where is it? Governor Pritzker. But of course, Governor Pritzker's family is behind the whole transgender craze. So that's why I'm sick when he talks about reproductive health. And then it says here, some of this is coming from George Soros, some is coming from the Democrat governor of Illinois, he wrote, of course.